everybody, welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name is Stephen Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. Will, how you doing, man?
Steve, I'm doing pretty great. I had a big-time matchup against you, and I didn't mention last week, a big-time matchup against my dad in my home league. Came out with a couple of big victories here.
Yes, you beat him too?
Yeah. He needed 30 points from Justin Tucker, and unfortunately, they went for quite a few two-point conversions in that game.
I believe we needed something like 30 points from Jonathan Taylor and Mark Andrews and got something like 70.
I think we needed 40. It was 135 to 91.
Wow.
And a full point PPR. And like after that screen pass, I was like, oh man, maybe, but there's no way. Like that was just a big play early in the game. Got us to like within 25-ish.
And then it took a while.
But,
Jonathan Taylor wasn't really doing anything after that. And I was like, it's going to be one of those games where they have a big play at the beginning and then do nothing the rest of the game.
Yeah, when Andrews did nothing in the first half and then obviously,
boom,
turned it on in the second.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Fun times.
Big game there for us. Ended up now in the 7 leagues that I'm in this year. Got 5 4-1 teams.
Wow, there you go. Well done.
Yeah. 3-2 and 2-3 as well. But yeah, I pulled a couple from the jaws of defeat. Fortunately, this week.
Yeah, good work.
We got past our first and only matchup of the year this year, I guess, since we're not playing early in the season, Steve.
Actually, I think we will again because there's the extra week. I feel like in years past, you would cycle through the first 4 people you faced again. Let me see. I will just scroll through here.
So we're going through week 14, right?
Oh, yeah, week 14, and that is not you. So we are 1 short.
Yeah, Burger Day. I got our buddy Graham. So yeah, you'll play the other 11 teams, and then you go back to the top of the order here in week 12.
So yeah, I guess we're 1 and done unless the playoffs happen for both of us, and then we'll deal with that when the time comes, I guess.
Yeah, yep. Hopefully we'll both be talking about playoffs at that time.
Indeed, but for now we got to do some start sits for week 6, don't we?
We do. Let's get it started.
Let's do it. Yeah, start with quarterbacks as always. Will Teddy Bridgewater versus the Raiders or Heineke versus the Chiefs?
Man, I am in on Heineke this week. I mean, the Chiefs defense has been really bad. They've been giving up points left and right. The Chiefs are going to score. I think Heineke's a very good stream, if not a good start, just in general. And Bridgewater, he did play this week, right? I know he missed the week prior.
Yeah, he left with a concussion the week prior. He did play this week.
Okay, yeah, and did decent. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 288 yards. So, QB 16 on the week. But Heineke, I think, just has a great matchup, and can't overlook that. He only had 12 fantasy points this week. Probably one of his worst starts, 248, no touchdowns, 2 picks. But this seems like it's a good matchup. And the week after against Green Bay, another rough defense with a great offense. So could be a time to see if you can get 2 good weeks out of him to stream.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Heineke for me. It should be a pretty interesting game. My only hesitation, and it's going to bleed into our next question too, is I don't know what to make of the Raiders this week and moving forward. Given you don't have Gruden.
Yeah, that's going to be just, who knows with that grouping.
Exactly. So, is Bridgewater just going to go in there and just going to steamroll them because things are falling apart and there's drama everywhere?
Yeah. Do they rally around?
Yeah, exactly. Do they rally around some interim coach? Sometimes teams rally, that first week they rally and then they fall apart after that. So, yeah, that gives me some hesitation, and Bridgewater could be a better play. But Heineke, he's hard to turn down, so I'll stick with him too.
Yeah. Next up, as you alluded to, Derek Carr at Denver or Carson Wentz versus the Texans.
Yeah, I can't go with Carr. It's one thing to rely on the defense of like the Raiders stopping somebody, but to rely on the offense is tough. So I can't start Carr, especially when Wentz is the other option. It's a good matchup against the Texans, so I'll stick with Wentz there.
Yeah, I want to say Wentz. It's just crazy how good of a start Carr had, right? He's a top 12 quarterback all first 3 weeks. But the last 2 weeks, we did see him come down a bit. Now, the Chargers defense, while they're never really healthy, they're still a decent unit, and Chicago's defense is pretty good. We really only saw them get torched, I think, week 1 against the Rams. But yeah, I think I would just take the shot on Carson Wentz if I'm streaming over Derek Carr this week. Denver's defense is pretty good as well, and in Denver, a lot of turmoil. I mean, you definitely could have the rally around him, but I would rather kind of take the shot on Wentz, especially because their season's almost on life support here, and as a Philly fan, we're rooting for him to play as many games as he can because we need to get him into 75% of the snaps. So he also could be playing for the rest of his season, true. Because if they fall out of contention, they probably will sit him to keep that as a second round pick and not a first round pick. So you got to think Carson's going to be giving us all the next few weeks to keep them in contention.
Yep, most likely. And then our last quarterback one, this one is pretty interesting, from the bottom of the streaming to kind of the top. Jalen Hurts versus the Buccaneers or Aaron Rodgers at Chicago.
Yeah, two guys that are playing well and two pretty tough defenses. Tampa, I mean, at the very least against the run, has been very good. Haven't been great against the pass, though, where Chicago, I think, is pretty well-rounded overall. Tough. I'd probably lean Hurts just with the rushing upside. They're going to be likely losing to Tampa, and they're going to have the game script working in their favor. Probably not going to be able to run the ball, so it's probably going to get a lot of passes and then a lot of scrambles from Hurts. So I think you're just going to get a lot of garbage time, yardage, points, just overall the game script's going to work in his favor, where I think we still believe Fields is hobbled, so I don't know what we're going to get out of him. Rodgers, obviously, they could score early and run the ball. He could have the touchdowns, but Chicago's defense is pretty good. I think this is pretty interesting on both ends, but I'd probably lean Hurts here. What about you?
I think so as well. I am hesitant. I don't know. Everybody knows the Bucs' run defense is really good. I don't know if that translates to stopping quarterbacks from rushing, or if they're just going to zone in on Hurts and try to shut that down. So I have my hesitations. There's a few Eagles this week, like Kenny Gainwell and Ertz, that seem like they could be interesting plays, but also just be absolutely nothing for you. So the whole offense as a whole, I'm worried about. And that's a Thursday night game, which I never like. But with that said, I do think I'm going to stick with Hurts. The rushing baseline should be fine. And like you said, they should have a game script that's going to require him to be doing a lot, I would assume. So I'll stick with him.
Yeah,
well.
Plus you'll know what you get out of him too on Thursday, and you can adjust the rest of your lineup around it.
Very true.
So we'll flip over to running backs here. A little light, just two running backs. Two running back questions for us. First one here is Williams versus the Packers. Like I said, Damian Williams or Darrell Williams against Washington. I see you're testing my knowledge there,
yes,
Steve.
Well done. The battle of the D. Williams. This one is tough, and I think part of it comes down to, what I said on the waiver show. Is Damian Williams going to start, taking more of the carries as he gets healthier, or is that split that we saw with Herbert a lasting thing? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's, the Darrell Williams show in KC. McKinnon will get some pass catching, but I'm not super worried about him at this point. So I will take the safe route and go with Darrell here.
Yeah, it's tough. I think I lean Damian just for more of the upside. I think they both have decent floors, but I do think, like you said, Damian's going to be worked more and more in. I think, at the very least, it's a closer split. Whereas Darrell, I mean, is McKinnon hurt, or does he have something going on with him, right?
McKinnon always has something going on with him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if
they
he's
elevated somebody and signed somebody, I want to say. They elevated someone from the practice squad I saw, and then maybe they were looking into the Marlon Mack trade, as I think maybe what it was.
Yeah, maybe. I forget. I do recall seeing something. Are they the ones that there's somebody that elevated a running back that's Evander Holyfield's son or grandson or something?
It's his son. Well, his son, because he played at Georgia and the Eagles had him. He bounced around a little bit. I think maybe they signed him, or maybe they signed Elijah McGuire. Let's see. I know they signed. I'm pretty sure they signed somebody. Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, let's see what we can find here. Oh, while I'm looking, the Dolphins signed Travis Fulgham to their practice squad. That's a
I did. I think I did see that. Yeah, that's it's interesting. I mean, they probably don't have a ton of room for him, but I guess practice squad is practice squad.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I also don't remember where I saw something.
I know it could be that they're maybe just looking at people. I know that they're looking at Marlon Mack. So, I mean, it's both are solid options. I think I'd just stay with Damian Williams. I think he's more talented overall, and I think if healthy, he's the one that is going to have a better game against Packers, whereas Washington's defense hasn't been playing good. But I still think that defensive line is it's good enough. They're going to show up one of these weeks. So, I mean, unless we get word that Damian Williams is still not fully healthy and going to be playing at, X%, maybe then I lean Darrell Williams, but I'll stick with Damian Williams here.
Okay, and our other running back question here, Myles Gaskin at Jacksonville or Miles Sanders versus the Bucks?
The Miles matchup. You really are getting your alliteration and
Indeed, yeah.
coherency here, yeah. Yeah. This is tough too because I'm not thrilled about Myles Gaskin overall either, but I do not think you can play Miles Sanders against the Bucks this week. I mean, we're hesitant to play Hurts, and he's going to have the game script in his favor. They're losing by a ton. They're going to try to get Sanders in there, but I could easily see this being more of a breakout game for Gainwell because he's more of the passing down guy. I am going to have to go with Myles Gaskin by default, but I'm not thrilled about either. Gaskin, I think, is just okay, and you're hoping that in like a PPR like this, he can just get a bunch of receptions as well.
Yeah, I mean, if he could repeat what he did last week, the monster game, that'd be wonderful. But that's the only game he's really done much this year. So, it's obviously it's one game. You can't really say it's a trend or anything. But I'm with you. I cannot start Sanders. I'd rather start Gainwell if you're starting somebody in the backfield for the Eagles. So yeah, I'll stick with Gaskin as well. And it's more of a slight against Sanders than it is a vote of confidence for Gaskin. That's for sure.
Yeah. So next up, half PPR, got Antonio Brown at Philly or AJ Brown versus the Eagles. I'm sorry, versus the Bills.
Yeah, this was a interesting one. It feels weird to go with the third wide receiver on a team over the number one AJ Brown, but coming off the hamstring injury, he really did not do too much against a Jacksonville defense that's not great. So it's hard to trust AJ Brown. I don't like trusting people with hamstring issues, so I think I'm going to have to go with Antonio Brown.
It does get an extra week with the Monday night game.
Yeah, he has some extra time.
Extra week, extra day.
Yeah, he does. I don't think the day really matters to me because I just see that hamstrings so often are just like week by week issues, and it takes so long to heal.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going with Antonio Brown.
Yeah, it's tough. I think I lean Antonio Brown as well, which is crazy to think. But I just think that they're going to be able to execute their offense even on a Thursday game here, whereas the game script is probably going to be in AJ Brown's favor, being the Bills probably go up big, but I could see that defense just suffocating Tennessee and this being a little bit of a blowout there on Monday night, where I do think Antonio Brown they're going to score, and if Gronk's not back, the receivers all had a pretty good game. Even with Gronk back, you still have a really good chance at him being one of the guys that has an impact. So I will go with Brown as well.
Okay, our next one, half-point PPR. We're picking two here, Will. Claypool versus Seahawks. Jalen Waddle at the Jaguars. Mooney versus the Packers. And Devonta Smith versus the Bucks.
So I'm going to take Mooney out first, just because we're just not seeing a consistent passing game there. He actually probably has been a little more consistent and usable than we've seen with Allen Robinson, but I just can't play him yet. And on the flip side, I'm firing up Claypool wherever I have him. I mean, I think he is, with the targets being spread out now with Juju hurt, he and Deontay are probably both going to be very usable on top of Najee, obviously. So I'm definitely firing up Claypool there. And then it's tough between Waddle and Smith. I probably lean Smith just because he's more of the top option, and it seems like they're probably going to be in the more passing game script than Miami versus the Jags. But that one could go either way. Waddle obviously has been playing pretty well as well. So I'll lean Claypool and Devonta Smith. How about you?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I'm removing Mooney for all the same reasons you did. Waddle, it could be interesting because there's a lot of injuries there. That's probably why Gaskin got so many targets last week, but I can't trust him. He hasn't done enough for me yet. Meanwhile, Claypool's played really well. Minus the week that he was hurt. And like you said, Juju's out. That should increase the timeshare. I'm sure we'll be copying pasting that bullet point for our next one when we talk about Devonta Johnson. But yeah, it's got to be Claypool, and then Devonta Smith. He's going to be a great volume play. It does hurt a little bit when it's half PPR, which was full point, but he, as we said when we were talking about Hurts and Sanders, they should be passing the ball a lot, so he should be the primary benefactor of that, you would think.
Yeah, I agree. Our last wide receiver, standard pick 2. We've got Godwin at Philly, CeeDee Lamb at New England, and Deontay Johnson, who you mentioned, versus the Seahawks.
So many Buccaneer Philly questions. I feel like a lot of people are going to know on Thursday what's happening this, at the for their week, if they're winning or losing. But this is a tough one because they're all great players. You don't want to sit them. But I think of the three, I'm going to go with Godwin and Deontay Johnson. Again, everything we said about Claypool carries over to Deontay Johnson. I think from a fantasy perspective, he's been better. I'd have to double check that, but I believe that's the case. And I don't want to sit Godwin. He's the better offense to me. Lamb could be perfectly fine. I think Lamb gets hurt a little bit by the standard format, I think. And the Patriots are going to take somebody away. Who are they taking away? Is it Lamb, Cooper, Zeke? And they're going to take somebody away. So I will stick with Godwin and Johnson here.
While Johnson is definitely the first one I'm locking in, I think he probably gets hurt the most by standard, right? Because there's no
that's true.
bonuses for catches at all. True. But the volume is just going to be there. It's you have to fire him up. Godwin and Lamb is close. I think it comes down to gauge your matchup, right? If you got a decent baseline and you're just looking for upside, I'd probably go with Lamb. Because like you said, maybe it's Lamb that they key on, maybe it's Amari Cooper or Zeke, and Lamb has some opportunity. And then Godwin, seems like a little safer of an option. So if you are looking for more safety, probably go Godwin. If you're looking for more upside, I go Lamb. Could go either way, right? Because Godwin has some fair amount of upside as well. So that's why I probably lean him in a vacuum. But if you just want like pure upside to go with Deontay Johnson, I probably will go Lamb.
That is fair. Next one, moving into the flex category here. Well, PPR, Darrell Williams at Washington or Marvin Jones versus the Dolphins.
And Marvin Jones, I'm just waiting for him to get some shine. I feel like he's just been not utilized, like I think we were hoping for. He's clearly, like from a target standpoint, looks like he's the number one on the team. But we're not seeing it come to fruition, especially this week. 1 for 25, and then he has 3 for 24 the previous week. So a couple of really dud weeks. Those first 2 weeks were solid, but good. And Miami has a really good secondary. So I'm staying away from him. I'll go with Darrell Williams and just hope the volume's there. I know I wasn't a huge fan of him in that running back head to head, but against Marvin Jones here, I'm going to go with the running back in this scenario. You?
So actually, a small correction for you, Will. This is interesting because it shocked me too. Miami, from a fantasy perspective, gives up the 5th most points to wide receivers. That's
interesting.
Shocking.
Yeah. Based on just the players on the team.
Yeah, I'll have to pull up the schedule to see who they've played and what happened, but that's where they're at right now. So I guess with that in mind, I would take Darrell Williams in most situations. If you're stuck in a situation where you played a bunch of Bucks and Eagles and you got burned, maybe you went with a Ertz and a Gainwell and got a 2 from Gainwell and a 5 from Ertz, so you need some upside. I'd probably go with Marvin Jones, but I think you laid it out. He's been pretty disappointing for a few weeks now. But that could be Marvin Jones. At times in his career, he's been pretty boom bust. So we'll see if you want to roll the dice. So in most situations, Darrell, if you need the upside, I'll go Marvin.
Right. And then our final heads up here, Myles Gaskin at Jacksonville or Tyler Lockett at Pittsburgh. Definitely someone people have been a little more worried about here going into this week.
Yeah, with Geno, it is worrisome. I know more than any because he's on my roster. Lucky for me, my entire team's on bye week, so I have no choice but to start him, so I don't have to worry about it. But I think I would go with Gaskin here. We laid out the conversation from him earlier. We don't need to rehash that, I guess. But Lockett, I'd want to see a little bit more from Geno. I thought he looked fine. And the Pittsburgh defense is pretty good. So that's worrisome. With that in mind, maybe Pittsburgh shuts down Metcalf and Lockett's a beneficiary of that. That's what I'm hoping for. But I'm not going to bank on that. I'll go with Gaskin.
Yeah, it's definitely tight. I am going to lean Tyler Lockett here and just go with the talent. I know he was known more of kind of like a big play guy, but I do see, with a full week of game plan, they'll figure out a way to get the ball in his hand, even if can't go downfield as much. It's obviously a tough defense against Pittsburgh there, but I just it probably is one of those comes down to do one upside with you take a shot with Lockett, knowing the floor is pretty low. Whereas Gaskin, you're going to get a good amount of volume, so maybe you take that for the floor play. But I don't think I can sit Lockett knowing that, what we saw, was during the game, right? They didn't get a chance to game plan for him, whereas now they're going to, it's pretty easy to throw the ball to DK on a slant, but I'm sure they'll be able to game plan a way to get Lockett his targets. So I'm going to go Lockett there.
Okay, and we're going to move over to the trade segment here, Will, starting with Dynasty. This one's super flex. Carson Wentz and Corey Davis, or Bryan Edwards, Rondale Moore, and a 22-second.
That's a tough one. I'd probably lean the Moore side just because it has the most just kind of pure upside. Davis is definitely valuable, and you're going to be able to use him at least this year. But I think Rondale Moore, he really could step in and be the number 2 and maybe even the number 1 down the road for a very good young up and coming quarterback. As long as you're not desperate for quarterback and you can afford to trade Wentz, maybe he's your 4th quarterback, then I would go with the Edwards Moore second side. If you really need quarterback and you can just kind of convert some capital, a 2nd round pick and 2 young receivers into maybe your 2nd or 3rd guy of Wentz and a solid Corey Davis. I don't hate that, but I would lean kind of the capital side.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I'll take that side. But, like you said, if you're a contender and you just lost Russell Wilson, I'm fine with adding Wentz and Corey Davis. Rondale Moore is the big piece that I don't want to lose. Bryan Edwards, we just haven't seen anything from. And maybe that'll change with a coaching change. Maybe. That'll be the narrative next, season when we're trying to make up an excuse as to why he breaks out.
Yeah.
22 seconds, who knows? So it's late. It doesn't matter. If it's early, it's awesome. So, that one's hard to judge. Rondale Moore, it would hurt to lose. Corey Davis is a good get, but it would be easier if Wentz had shown something more. He hasn't proven to me that he's a long-term starter. It's looking more like 1-year experiment. Maybe they take a shot at Rodgers in the offseason or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm with you. I'll go with the Rondale Moore side.
All right. One other dynasty here, PPR tight end premium. DeAndre Hopkins, Damian Williams, and a 2022 second round pick for 2 2022 first round picks.
Yeah, I think I'm taking the Hopkins side pretty easily. Those first are a little bit more valuable in a tight end premium league for sure. But Hopkins alone is probably worth that or a little bit less than that. And it's it's made up for with the second and then Damian Williams if you need some depth at the running
Mm-hmm.
back position. A common way you like looking at it is you're moving down one round from the first to the second to add,
Yeah.
Hopkins, Damian Williams. So I go with the Hopkins side here.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and I've seen people kind of view it as, with that first round pick next year, you're drafting DeAndre Hopkins, so you're really only trading away one first round pick, which is a downgrade of a first round pick for Damian Williams, and and getting DeAndre Hopkins this year. So when you look at it from that standpoint, obviously you do a draft DeAndre Hopkins in the first, any pick in the first of a rookie draft in the next season. So that additional pick is just kind of that incentive to get DeAndre Hopkins, but then you're getting the second and Williams back. So I think it's pretty easy the Hopkins side when you kind of take a look at it that way.
Awesome. And into the world of redraft here, I think this one's pretty easy. PPR, Kamara and Amari Cooper, or McLaurin, Emmanuel Sanders, and Chase Edmonds.
Yeah, just too many variables on the latter side. I'll take the better player with Kamara and Cooper. I like McLaurin, but the QB is going to be inconsistent all year. Emmanuel Sanders probably going to be going back and forth with Beasley. It seems like he's probably the number 2, but there's going to be weeks where Beasley eats into it. And Edmonds, I like Edmonds. I'm just, we'll see about him, I guess, overall. As you go forward, and I, obviously rather have Kamara, so pretty easy the Kamara side.
Yeah, you can't downgrade from Kamara to Edmonds. That's
No.
And you could do that if you're adding, swap McLaurin out for Devonta Adams, maybe. But yeah, you can't drop that off and not get something more elite than McLaurin. We all like him, but he's not in that echelon yet. So yeah, I'm with you, Kamara side.
All right. Big one here. Redraft PPR. Joe Burrow, Mike Williams, top 5 receiver in the NFL this year, Mike Williams. Jacoby Myers and George Kittle for Sam Darnold, Chris Godwin, DeAndre Hopkins, and Hawkinson.
I think this one's pretty easy for me, and I'm going to go with the Darnold side. Darnold's been good, and I don't think that's going to stop. Personally, and I know some people are just waiting for it to drop, but I don't think it's really going to drop. He'll have his off games, but I think he's going to be pretty consistent for the year. Mike Williams to Godwin, probably a bit of a downgrade, but not enough of one. Moving from Jacoby Myers to Hopkins is huge. Myers, it'll have his good weeks, but I imagine he's going to be pretty inconsistent because they spread the ball around so much. And Kittle to Hawkinson is probably technically a decline, but I mean, Kittle's on IR. He's going to be missing another 2 weeks. The offense did not look good with Lance. Maybe Jimmy G comes back and that benefits. On the flip side, Hawkinson hasn't been great either, dealing with his injury. But there's less options in the choice. I'd imagine if he can get over that knee injury, he'll be more on par with Kittle. So I'm going to go with the Darnold side.
Yeah, I think this is pretty easy. I'm on the Darnold side too. I think the Williams and Myers for Godwin and Hopkins is easily the Hopkins and Godwin side. Like, Myers is okay, but he's not enough to add to Mike Williams to get those other 2. And maybe you're selling really high on Williams now too. I think he's going to continue this year, but these may be some of his best games of the season, so you always have to take that into consideration as well. Whereas I don't think it's that big of a difference from Darnold to Burrow. Like, Burrow has more pure upside, but he is not proven to be the healthiest, and it's just redraft. It's not a super flex, so you can always he was on the waivers to a degree as well. And then Hawkinson and Kittle, like you said, you're buying weeks here with Hawkinson, so you're going to get a couple weeks out of him that you're not going to get out of Kittle. And even when they come back, it's I think it's a minor downgrade at worst, even if Kittle gets back to where he was. Because I do think Hawkinson, it's a decent buy low on him right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Last question. Redraft PPR. Austin Eckler or DeAndre Swift and Kareem Hunt.
That's tough. I think I probably lean the Swift and Hunt side just because running backs are so tough to come by. And Hunt is just such a good baseline RB3, good RB2, great RB3. Whereas, in Swift, you're getting a little more from it. Now, if you're the Eckler owner and you have, really nothing behind you and you're just trying to break them up, I think it's solid. Whereas if you maybe have, a first round running back and then you have Swift, Hunt, and somebody else, then I'd love turning Swift and Hunt into Eckler. So it's very team dependent. I probably in a vacuum will just take the multiple running backs. You kind of alleviate some of the injury risk where you've broken it up into two guys as opposed to one injury ruins all value there. But it's pretty close.
Yeah, I'm with you. It depends on the makeup of your running back grouping here. I think I'm on your side. I take the Swift and Hunt side. Worst case scenario, if you pull the trigger and it doesn't work out, you can always combine them back together and get an upgrade somewhere else, because people always need running back depth, right? You get closer to trade deadline and someone will do that. And that is going to wrap up this week's Start Sit episode. Again, tune in next week. Got more waivers and start sits. But until then, good luck and trust your board.